have an exciting show lined up for you guys today. Listen, if you are joining us live, hit hashtag live and let us know what city you're tuning in from. And if you're catching us on the replay, hashtag replay and let us know what city you're tuning in from. That really lets us know who is actually tuning in, and we really appreciate that a lot. Listen, today's show is going to talk to you about some systems, and particularly a sales system. So if you don't have one, you want to tune in. If you do have one, you want to see how you could probably improve it. And we are going to share with you exactly some of the mistakes a lot of entrepreneurs make when it comes to automating the sales part of their business, which is, in my opinion, the most important part, because without the sales, what are we really doing anyway? All right. So with that, let's go ahead and dive right in.
All right, folks. You know what time it is. It's Technology Tuesday. Every Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are here bringing you practical knowledge, practical applications. You can have practical solutions for your business. And today is one of those top practical solution days because Greg and I were talking this week. A lot of our topics come from our internal conversations, and one was about people and how they generate revenue in their business and why their revenue can sometimes be inconsistent even when they have the best of intentions.
Yes, sir. So, one of the things that I hear from my clients is that they are looking at ways to use AI to create content, and they're using content creation as a way to generate leads and sales for their business. And so, when it comes to that, they're looking at and learning from people who are showing them how to use AI to generate this content for their business. And I think that's good, and you should be considering that. However, it's only very effective if you have the right systems in place to support that, not only to create the content, but to get the most out of the content. And so, Jerry, I think the most important thing is understanding for what type of business do you have. And so I want to talk about that. Like, if you are a content creator, then the content that you produce is the product, right? It's like, listen, the content that you produce, that you put on social media, is the thing that is supposed to generate enough views for a platform to pay you for all those views, right? If you get enough eyeballs on your content, then you get paid for that. And it's a very different business model where if you are a coach, consultant, or agency, or brick and mortar, right? Because most of us can fit within one of those four categories. Are you a coach, consultant? Are you a digital marketing agency? Or are you a brick and mortar, right? And so if you are a content creator, which is a different model, then the content you create and the amount of it and the number of views will determine how much money you make. And so if that's your business model, then the product is the content, and your content has to be getting as much views as possible, and you have to do it at a rate. When I say a rate, I mean publish content at a rate that can get these platforms to pay you, right? And you have to battle with those algorithms to make sure your content is seen. If you're not in that category, then you need something else on the back end that will help you turn that content and those views into actual clients and revenue for your business. So a lot of my clients fall into that category. So it's important to say, hey, who are you listening to? What kind of business do they have, so that you're following the right advice for your company? So if you are a coach, consultant, agency, and you're following the advice of a content creator on how to create content, it's not in alignment with your type of business. And I'm not just saying that advice isn't good, and I'm not saying you can't use it, but at the end of the day, their product is the content and your product is something else. And so you have to create content differently that fits your type of business. So before we talk about the sales systems, I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because a lot of times people don't let me start from my clients. A lot of when I talk to them, they're not clear about how the content creation part fits into their business model. And I wanted to share my thoughts about that, because I think it's important. Like, is your content strategy in line with the business model that you have?
Yes, yes. And I think you mentioned something there, and I'm not sure if everyone understands. So like, so a lot of times when we talk about stuff, we're talking about it from where we are and not where everybody is. So there could be people listening to us that don't even know if they need a sales system
Mm,
because I let's go back. Remember, we went to podcast, right? My podcast. Excuse me. We went to Pod Fest where they had people who were podcasting. It was a podcasting fest, right? So we're at Podfest, and monetization was a topic that was brought up a lot. However, the people that were there at Podfest only believed monetization came in one way.
that's
Remember
right.
that they were like, "Oh, I want to get a sponsor. I want to get someone who just pays me to talk because they're advertising on my show," not realizing that not everyone qualifies or is a match for sponsorship. So therefore, they became a hobbyist more so than a business because their podcast is not generating revenue because there's a whole other list of items, right? Like sponsorship was just one of many other ways that you could generate revenue through your podcast. But they were just focused on one because that's the one that they saw somebody else do or they saw a big name have, and they're like, well, that must be the way to do it. And there could be people who are creating content thinking that creating content generates revenue this way, not realizing that content can be used to generate revenue in multiple ways if you have a system and strategy that directs the next step after the content is created.
You are absolutely correct. That is exactly, you know, the point and what we're talking about. So, for a lot of my clients, they are wanting to consistently generate content that generates leads for their business. And so, my question is always, once you have a lead, what is your sales mechanism? What is the sales process that you're going to put them through once someone raises your hand and say, "Hey, I'm interested. I want to learn more about that," or "That's something that I think could help me." What is your sales process? So I'll share a couple with you guys, and then we can dive into that and how that works and how you can position it. But before I do, I want to make sure, Jerry, that I'm on the right path here when it comes to a sales process. What have and I know your clients are a little bit different, but what have your clients used as a sales mechanism to generate sales for their businesses?
I mean, that's a tough question because it varies based off of the product or solution, right? There there are people who are using they generate leads to get people into their funnel or their sequence to buy a service that may be something that's coaching. Some people are using leads to generate, people to hire them as a keynote speaker. Some people have product that they're trying to sell. So it, oh, excuse me, sorry about that. It varies based off of person. I think for the purpose of our conversation is it's helpful, and this is why I say it varies because people are picking the strategy or the system based off of what the offer is. So the key for I think those who are listening is going back to that old, I shouldn't say old, but the Stephen Covey, right? Begin with the end in mind, which is the 7 habits of highly effective people for those who are familiar with that book. And habit number two is to begin begin every process where you want to actually end up. And it's funny because I just came in from the driving range because I'm going to be playing golf tomorrow, so I was getting some little bit of practice in today. And the same thing applies with golf with all sports. Is like where you look, where you see yourself going, where your destination is, that's where the ball goes, right? So if you're only looking in the spot closest to you, it's not going to travel as far as you want it to go. You got to actually see where you want to hit. And sometimes when people are building businesses, their business system, in a lot of cases, they're thinking about their present location, not their future destination.
Yeah,
So you want to always be creating a strategy to get you to where you want to go, but you have to know where you want to go first. So I think the key here is for people to know what their offer is. And once they know what their offer is, then uh, they pick the best solution or the best system for that.
agreed. I think that, you know, for what I want to share, I think that the if we look at kind of the top ways that most people sell a product or service, you know, using the internet, right? Because the internet is a way to get in front of the right people or get in front of people, and we're outside of physically events, physical meetings, and stuff like that. And so, one of the ways that a lot of people generate sales is they will have people book a call on on their calendar, and they will schedule a Zoom meeting or online meeting between them and themselves, or them and a sales person. And so that is one way, is to generate meetings, right? And for people who are kind of getting started, one of the ways that is most effective is actually having these meetings, because they're able to talk to people live one on one. And a lot of times when it comes to, you know, marketers who are able to automate their sales process, is because they've had numerous one-on-one conversations with their ideal client and been able to figure out their desires, pain points, and questions that get asked multiple times over and over for people who are looking at a product or service. And so they're then able to take that and then put it in an automated presentation where they're able to give 90% of what someone would ask and feel and stuff in a presentation. But if you skip that part, then a lot of times trying to create an automated presentation of some sort is a challenge. And a lot of times people will try to teach other people how to do it, but that person may not have had the experience of actually being doing one-on-one sales. So I think part of this is understanding where the sales process that people see and or have been taught online comes from. Like the, you know, webinar has evolved from a physical meeting where somebody was in front of the room and being able to answer questions at the end of their presentation, and then offer their product or service at the back of the room, right? And so the online version is what we all know as a webinar. So Jerry, the first type of sales mechanism is that one-on-one, where you uh, have people book on the calendar, where you're going to speak to them in person, one-on-one. And the second type of sales mechanism is a webinar. Now, some people feel that webinars may be uh, a
Played
challenge, but
out.
yeah. But the reality is they are not, if they're done in the right way. And there's a way to do them now in 2026 that's a little bit different than it has been done in the previous 6 to 7 years, to be able to get those results. But webinars is still a way to get it. Your sales presentation done. And a lot of people like webinars because they can be your sales mechanism and lead magnet wrapped into one. So people come to learn something, and they also get an offer, typically near the end of it, to take advantage of the information they have received in a higher fashion. So webinars are a way to create a sales mechanism. They are not necessarily played out. You just have to do them in a more effective way in 2026 than you had to before. So
Yeah, I
any
mean the thing with stuff um being overused is really about people getting stale, right? Crackers get stale over time, but that doesn't mean crackers aren't good. Like we still buy Ritz crackers. I mean, I know I still buy Ritz crackers. So it's the fact that sometimes when people are doing stuff, they're not being as creative as they possibly can. They're not keeping it fresh. They're not keeping it new, and they're typically, well, Greg, we were in the same time period. I was playing some old like breakdancing movies for my kids, and they were like, "Oh, you biting my style," and I was like, "Yeah, see, that's what we used to talk about back then. Like, oh, you biting me, man, you biting my style." Like the whole thing was you don't want to copy somebody else. And what I mean by copy something else, yes, I believe in duplication. Yes, I believe in like the idea of you can model or use somebody as a template. But the challenge is when you you model someone so specifically where it is almost identical to them and it's not a unique derivative of them. And I think the challenge with sometimes with these methods, with these processes, is people use it so exactly where it becomes like the same. It's like ubiquitous. I think that's the right word to use. I mean, if I'm not using the right vocabulary, somebody can always tell me in the comments. But you want to make it look like it's creative, new, ingenious. It's unique to you. So I was just on a webinar last week, and the purpose of the webinar was to update people on like the new processes, procedures, or to answer any questions that the people might have about any services, products, or what are some things that plagued you that you would always want to ask the author. It was like ask the author anything about the book. It was, but part of it was also to update people on what they have new going on with their organization. So webinars still work when you know how to position them and you have a unique spin on it.
Yes, and you got some important points there. And before I share another one, I'm gonna break that one down just a little bit. The Your sales process, when it comes to being unique and learning in today's environment where you have AI and you have so many coaches trying to teach you the strategy is no longer that hard, or strategies or marketing strategies from the gurus are no longer are difficult to obtain. Most of the strategies are out there. For example, the webinar strategy, right? It's been out there. Um, so getting to the strategies is in learning the strategy is only half the battle. And so if you're learning a strategy from someone who is teaching you, let's say the webinar strategy, like Russell Brunson has one, and most of the gurus out there have their own version of a webinar strategy. And the part about not only making it your own, but making it effective. Two people can get the same webinar strategy. One person can make it work and the other person may not. You have to go deep into the strategy to make it work for you. Just because you have the strategy, if it was just that easy to take the strategy and just implement it and have it actually work, then everybody would be a success right now. Like there would be nobody who'd be struggling. And if you know anybody who's struggling, then that's proof in itself that just having these strategies and having this information is not necessarily the all and be all. You have to make it work for yourself, right? You have to make it work. You have to figure out, okay, here's the strategy, but now how can I make it work? And a lot of people give up on it too easy. They give up on the things that after they just implement the first time, just as they heard, and they don't work it or think about it or find what challenges that they can overcome with it. Those are the ones who don't succeed, and the ones who are the ones who really say, okay, I have the strategy, I've implemented, now let me learn what happened here, what worked, what didn't work, what can I change, what can I, right? So a lot of times we want someone to just give us the complete thing that was going to work for us without us having to do any work or effort on it. And the reality is that's not the case. So I wasn't going to insert that right there, but I figured since you hit on it, Jerry, I figured I'd just put that right there. I think that's important for us to, if you ever have a strategy or something didn't work, and I'm not saying to keep beating a dead horse, but at the same time, a lot of times entrepreneurs give up on things too easily, too soon. And I know this firsthand because for many of the years that I struggled, that was part of it. I think that just because I got exactly what they said and I try it and it didn't work, I'm ready to move on to the next thing instead of really sticking with it long enough to make it work. And if you listen to the top gurus and you read their books and their PDFs and you hear about the times they struggled and what they had to do, you will see a pattern of people sticking with it and working through a strategy to make it work for them. So with that, I wanted to share that before we dive into the other ones.
And what you just said is what I would call typical. Typical. Um, I just watched the season finale of Shark Tank, and they said this exact thing to a woman who did not get a deal. They were like, "This business that you have is not the one. Don't get stuck on where you are because typically it's typically for a lot of people it's the next one. It's not it's that first thing may not be the one." And so Failing Forward was a book that helped me with that, with John Maxwell, Failing Forward. But also, Greg, with sports, like remember the first time you went to football practice and it you weren't that good, right? I know, like the first time I did wrestling practice, I wasn't that good. Right, first time I hit a golf, like I started golf last year and trying to hit the driver the first time, the ball did not go in the air. Like I see everybody doing it on TV, and it's like boop, it goes right in the air. But no, it takes time for your shot, your swing to get better. And patience is such a big factor with this. Sometimes people see the success someone else has, but they don't know what the person actually go through. The idea of overnight success is like an illusion because overnight really means like 25 years or 15 years. It's like it didn't really happen overnight. You just weren't there when they were sleeping the whole entire time through. Like the night was long. It wasn't just like yesterday they started. So that's important.
Yeah,
Be patient with the process.
patient with the process. Awesome. So here are a couple tweaks in your sales process, right? That you can do. So number one, um, I don't have anything if you're doing one-on-one sales. Like if you're having people book on your call, then you gotta you gotta figure out your sales process there. Talk to sales experts, but if you're doing a webinar in this climate, one of the things you may want to consider is possibly removing the gate and having people register. Like, um, the idea was to register to capture the email. And again, it depends on your product and service, but I'm just going to give some things to test and try. Consider like removing the gate and just having people be able to watch it on demand, like even without email, right? Because people's attention in today's environment uh, is very hard to gain, right? And so if they're interested, if they see some content, which we'll talk about in just a second, and they're interested in that thing, then at that particular moment, if they can get satisfaction of watching or getting through it, then you have a opportunity to get your sales message in front of them. Okay. At the rate that most people are putting out content today's, then trying to gate them and have a certain period of time where you're going to do the presentation, or even if it's pre-recorded or a certain time, and try to get them to show up to that time. A lot of times it's a challenge to get people to show up to a webinar. Most people who have a business of any kind, right? Um, People who are working from home, people who are doing multi-level marketing or direct sales, people who are doing, selling on Shopify or anything like that. Most people now look at the internet as a way to have a secondary income or supplement their income. So a lot of people aren't new to the term webinar and things like that, and they understand, oh, if I give them my name and email, I'm going to be on this list. Like they know, right? The market is smarter now. So if you may consider avoiding that, then you can uh, most likely generate some business from not having a gate in front of there. And so again, depending on how long you've been marketing and your offer to get people to register, you may want to try it without and see if you can get some business that way. Again, these are just ideas, things that I'm trying with my community and things that I'm willing to share here that you guys can try. So one of the things is remove the gate to your webinar. And when you are publishing content, let's say it's a YouTube video or a social media post, right? You can have your call to action, which is the thing they want, which is the thing you answer on your webinar. You could say, hey, if you're interested in learning more or you're interested in getting X, Y, and Z solved, then you can watch this free presentation right now. And you can have it linked to that in your YouTube, under your YouTube video or in your social media post, and link straight to that ungated webinar, right? Pre-recorded webinar. So that's one ways that you can automate and have a sales mechanism with the content you're putting out. And so that's something I recommend, and one of the ways that I recommend you guys try to implement a sales mechanism with the content you're already producing.
What you're talking about, Greg, right now is basically earn the information. So before we were saying, well, people would have to pay us with their information, right? So you were like, you give me your information, I will give you value, right? And now because there's so much information, or we should say content, right? I want to use the same word more than once. So we want their contact information. we would give them something of value after they gave it to us, right? Now you have to earn the interest because the market, because the, well, number one, because everybody is more informed, right? Because things have been happening for years and years and years, because people know the systems and how they work, because the consumer is more educated, right? You now have to earn interest, and then when you earn the interest with your value, they will exchange their information because they want to consume more of that value. So if you have to think about the model differently in 2026 than you did in 2016 or 2006, because the world has changed and people are bombarded with information, and they can get a lot of information now uh, for free. That doesn't mean the information is as valuable, right? But they can get information for free that will satisfy their curiosity on specific topics. So you have to make sure that if you are going to grab people into your tribe or capture people into your tribe, I know those words kind of seem like um, aggressive. I don't know, but if you want to include people or get people to become join you, maybe that's a better way to say it, join you in your tribe, you have to earn their interest by offering valuable information, valuable content, valuable services, something that they truly believe will help them.
You are absolutely correct. Because if you want to become a pilot, then you can go to flight school and you can learn to become a pilot. If you want to become a doctor, you can go to medical school and you can learn to become a doctor. If you want to grow or create a information coaching consulting agency type businesses, there isn't a agency school or coaching school for online marketers that actually exist. So you have to kind of not only find the information but get it in the right order so that you can be successful quickly, and not if you get it in the wrong order, that's a challenge. So to your point, Jerry, to your point about earning uh, earning it, I'm hoping that Jerry and I have done that today. And what I want to do is invite you, if you want to see exactly how to grow a coaching, consulting, or agency type business. And I invite you to join us in our community at sevenfigurepath.com. That's the number sevenfigurepath.com. And we will share with you exactly this strategy and more of how to earn information, how to create your automated webinar sequence, and how to create the content that is in line with your business so that all you're doing is putting out the content, and that content will generate the leads that will generate, and your sales mechanism will generate the sales. It all has to be, like Jerry said, start with the end in mind, and you have to build it backwards. And if you'd like to see how to do that, then join us at sevenfigurepath.com. So Jerry, listen, man, I want to thank you for your input and your advice. Your thoughts are always appreciated, and you help me become a better host each and every week. So I want to thank you in advance, sir.
My pleasure, brother.
All right, with that, guys, listen, tune in every single week, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at technologytuesday.com. With that, we look forward to seeing you guys in the group. Take care. Have a blessed week.